Welcome. So, who here has never been to any WASM event before? Okay, that is like almost half. Okay, so we've got lots of people who have not been to a research day before. This is the third one, by the way, and they've not been to a CG meeting. Some people are here for both. Actually, most people are here for both. So for those people who raised your hands, you're from companies. How many are representing a company in some way? Shout out the names of companies that you're from.
PNC.
All these things, besides Adobe, I think all of these have not actually participated in any CG activities before. I think this is great. The new people are showing up. We've got some oldies but goodies, all the Google people here, which is almost the majority, some Fastly people, and also some Mozilla people will show up tomorrow. It's great to see so many people interested in WASM. I am still interested in WASM after almost 10 years. I'm Ben, by the way. If you haven't met me before, I've met almost all of you. But you've probably corresponded with Dabney in the back. So she's really the star of this. And Julie is out there too. So Julie and Dabney are my admins and they help put this together. So let's first thank them that you're actually here. So I just want to say that Wasm Research is a hot topic in the sense of well, actually, compared to machine learning, maybe it's not super hot. So I would call it maybe goodly warm. So if you imagine like a really cold Pittsburgh winter and you have like some hot chocolate and you put your hands on it, it feels like good. That's WASM. So it should make you feel good inside. I think publications are in all kinds of areas. So in systems, it's in programming languages, in verification, it's in embedded systems and networking. People are trying to use this binary format for all kinds of things. I find that really exciting. There's researchers that out there, I don't know, I try to estimate, there's at least a couple of 100 people that are working on WASM in academia, either published a paper or looking to publish a paper. It may not be their core thing, but WebAssembly is kind of like maybe a side project or a hobby or something that students are interested in. There's funding out there too. So national funding agencies, also companies are funding. We'll talk about the partners for the research center here, but they've been able to provide funding so students can do research. There's workshops. So there was a workshop at Popple in January. How many people were there? Thomas was there. I know that Luke was there. I was there. So this is actually penetrating into academia in the form of actually having venues where you can publish WebAssembly specific papers or give talks about WebAssembly. I think that's great. I think this is really healthy. And I think that because machine learning is so hot, we don't have the scrutiny of like a bunch of BS. So we can actually do core research. It's working its way into education too. There are many courses out there where a compiler backend is like the last thing that you generate is WebAssembly. And so you don't have to worry about all the register allocation stuff and all that annoying backend stuff that only a few people in the world like. Or it could be that you are implementing a VM. So I taught a VMs course here at CMU 2 years ago. I'm teaching again in the fall, and you actually implement a good portion of a WebAssembly engine. And so that teaches you about bytecodes and interpreters and JIT compilers and things like that. And of course, like you can use WebAssembly to make visualizations in the browser and make like applications that like people use for stuff. I don't know what that is because I'm a compiler person, but apparently people make stuff that you use with WebAssembly. In systems, like what about operating systems? Maybe you could use WebAssembly and the kernel, or maybe you could directly target the kernel with WebAssembly. So there's all kinds of research there. Verification, even people here in the room have worked on verification of WebAssembly implementations or of applications that are compiling to WebAssembly or extending WebAssembly to make it easier to verify. There's lots of topics there. PHP, our favorite language, which everybody should write WASM via PHP. There are many languages coming to WASM. And so I think that just keeps expanding. So I think that relevance is high. So we set up a research center here at CMU. So I am the director. I kind of made up my own position. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. But Heather Miller, so she actually was the director of the Scala Center, which before Scala had any governance body at all. She created it. So she helped me set up the WebAssembly Research Center. She's the co-director. She will be here at some point here today. She's just coming back from leave from having her second child. Funny story about Anthony. So Anthony is kind of also a partner in crime here. He's in the ECE department, really interested in Wasm. Couldn't be here today because of a scheduling issue where Bosch sent them all to Germany when they were all supposed to come here this week. We kind of screwed that one up. Many of these other people here, so you might know some of them in the room. Phil is actually in the room here. Each of them had their own reasons for not being able to be here today. I kind of hope that they would, but as it turns out that many people had events in their lives. So the Research Center is supported by our partners here, Dfinity, Shopify, Siemens, Woven, and also some NSF funding. And these people have been able to provide us with a little bit of money so that students can do their research and eat pizza on Friday. So we thank them. You should, if you see a representative of these, you should thank them. And also, I'll talk just a little bit about some of the areas that we're focusing on. Okay, so I put 8 things here, and 8 things is not, you can't focus on 8 things, right? You can focus on about 2 things. So this represents different people with different research agendas. This is not all me, and it's not all the faculty members too. I particularly am interested in Wasm engines, making Wasm engines faster, make them do things that they couldn't before, make them introspect into code, I don't know, runtime techniques for debugging and scalability and things like that. I'm also interested in languages running there. So that's kind of where I spend my time when I think about research. But other people in the room, in particular, Elizabeth, one of my students, working on fault injection. So it's kind of like fuzzing for a program, but in a distributed way. Phil is working on machine learning. And so we have a student that's also working on machine learning with Wasm. So what does that mean? Can we program the GPU directly? Do we port machine learning frameworks over? Do we put Wasm into the machine learning actual models? Don't actually know. So this is a research area. Verification, so Fraser and also Michael in the room are working on verification of Wasm engine implementations. Also working on some benchmarking stuff. So some students in the room are working on that, working on systems, for example, with Anthony Rowe, and also visualization. So Dominic is actually working on that. So there's like lots of topics even in CMU, and there's more topics even outside of this that I can't even get to, which people will talk about today. So that's pretty much all I had to say. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. Also, Mozilla gave us a little bit of extra funding for this event. And are there any questions before we get going? The podcast, yes. So Thomas at Google over here has set up a podcasting room. So we have an overflow room, which is down the hallway, and he's going to be interviewing people about what's going on both at Research Day and CG. And so if you're interested in talking about either maybe you had a poster, maybe you have a talk, or maybe you're doing research that's not represented here, go talk to Thomas. We're going to make decisions in the CG tomorrow. He's going to try to cover those a little bit in his podcast, so to kind of recap some of the stuff. So it's all volunteer-based, like nobody's required to do that. We're not going to, shuffle you over there and force you to talk to the press or anything like that. But if you feel like talking to him, please do.